Morning guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's okay. Thank you for tuning in as always, very grateful. This video is a very important video. It's I'm going to be showing and helping any beginners that are trying to learn boxing, trying to understand the sport, trying to get into the sport. Basically about training. I'm going to do multiple different parts of this video, right? Because it's a very deep subject, training, so I couldn't cover it in one video. And I just wanted to say thanks to, hold on one sec. Yeah, big shout out to one of the subscribers that had mentioned, you know, he wanted some advice on some, you know, tips about how to train, how often to train, how often to hit the bag, stuff like that. So I'm going to be covering all of that in these different parts, but today is just where to start. You know, sometimes it can be a lot learning something, especially like boxing. And if you're a beginner, which this channel is geared to, you know, welcome along. I'll be doing my best to point you in the right direction of where you get started, how many days a week, stuff like that, what to work on, how often you should be hitting the bag, how long for. I'll do my best. It's hard to know exactly what level everybody's at and what you're trying to achieve, because ultimately if you are trying to learn how to fight and actually compete, you got to be in there at least 5-6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, plus road work, 3 to 4 miles, 3 to 4 miles, 3 to 4 times a week at least. It's a lot, but it is what it is. You got to understand that you're fighting somebody else that's trying to you know, essentially do damage on you. But if there's people that are just trying to get for fitness, this video is for you as well. I'm going to start talking about routines. I'm going to start talking about non-negotiables. I'm going to be talking about just how to get started and how to stick to it and how to turn motivation into discipline. Let's go.
Boxing.
Alright, so first things first, you know, it's always shadow boxing. Whatever you're doing, this is great for fitness, it's great for learning anything, right? You can practice and work on your footwork, you can practice and work on your jabs, combinations, speed, power, just about anything. And it is an amazing exercise tool for you. So definitely get used to that, incorporate that, especially if you're on this channel and you're trying to learn boxing, which I'm assuming everybody here is. And first of all, big shout out to you for even getting this far and just trying to, you know, absorb or get some information so you can use it to your advantage. You know, that's a big pat on the back for you. The next thing you should be doing is apply yourself. I always talk about that on this channel. Application is going to be the next most important thing you do. It's all good watching a video and absorbing the information. Yes, you can take on certain things, of course, without doing anything, but you have to go and apply yourself to really get the most out of it. So, you know, I'll explain at the end of the video. You know, I don't tend to say you should listen to me. I'm just out here giving my information and telling my story. But, you know, I have been teaching beginners for about 15 years almost. And I fought in the amateurs in New York, and I love the sport. And I've been training, you know, religiously for a very long time. And I'm obsessed with the sport, and I put my heart and soul into it. So I can only say that. And I do my best to research everything I'm talking about and present it to you in a videography, photography fashion, because it's part of this channel as well. But anyway, shadow boxing. I think roughly, you know, like depending on what level and depending how much time you have, obviously the more the better. Somewhere between 6 and 8 is a good idea, but if you don't have that much time, and the minimum 3 to 5 a day. But again, if you can only fit in 3 days of training a week, so be it. You know, do the best you can, but certainly incorporate shadow boxing. And when you start to incorporate it, what I like to do the first couple of rounds, I try to do, you know, just go through the motions, right? Just throwing the punches out there, making sure the shoulders are going, making sure you're relaxed, your chin's down, you've got a nice stance, nice balance, and you're not going too crazy, but everything's efficient and everything's working. And a major mistake that I see beginners do is they try to throw too many punches. They throw the punches that they can't really do. They start moving their feet too much and everything falls apart, which, you know, it's good that they're out there doing it, but there's a better way to do it, in my opinion. Just focus on what you can do, slow things down a little bit, basic steps, basic punches, and keep it simple. And, you know, just go through the motions for the first round, maybe first round 1 or 2 if you're doing more than that. If you're doing, you know, if you're only doing about 3, should only take 1 round just to go through the motions, and then you want to build it up, right, and bring a bit of speed in there and bring a bit of more efficiency whilst having good technique. You don't want to start throwing the punches too fast where the technique is flawed. I always talk about a golf course, right? Like, I don't play golf, I barely go on the golfing range, but when I do, once every 5 years, you know, I'm not out there trying to smash every single ball because they all go off to the side. I'm trying to keep it easy, bang, just a nice consistency, right? And that's how you should think of it when boxing, right? Go at the level that you can do where the speed is good and your technique's good. And then, you know, obviously every now and then you can try your technique out, but it's all about consistency and efficiency, in my opinion. Yeah, one of the most beautiful things to do, if you have the chance and if you are available to do it, of course, is to work out outside in the sun, in nature. You know, it really is like you're crossing off, I always talk about it, 3 things right there. You're doing exercise, right? You're getting sunshine and you're in nature. And these things are going to boost your mentality. They're going to boost your peace of mind, at least for me. And when you get done working out, you get some good food inside you and then you get a good night's sleep. You're well on your way to setting yourself up for the next day. And that's another big part of this channel, is helping people get the best out of themselves and just giving some information that works for me, that has helped for me over the years, and just to really boost your mentality and get, you know, the peace in your heart that you're looking for. And obviously working on your craft as well. You know, that's the main part of the channel. And as I talk about, you know, efficiency and going through the motions, you got to ask yourself, is my balance good? Is my shape good? Meaning your stance, your structure right here, nice and balanced. And my punch is good. Is the snap good? Is my hands on my chin right here? Are they coming right back to the chin? They're not out here, right? They're not here flailing around like that. This is bad programming. Is my chin tucked? You know, these are things you can do shadowboxing, even like slowly, right? Am I turning my hips? Stuff like that. All these things are really, really, really important, and you can do that shadowboxing even at a slow pace. So look, all the things I've just ticked off. I mean, this day is absolutely beautiful, and I know people might be working in offices and stuff and it's not that easy, I get that. But if you do have an opportunity to get outside and as much as you can in nature, in sunshine, I know we can't control the sun, but in that moment that it comes, look out for it and use it, because it really is food for the soul. You know. So in terms of where to start, right? Well, you just got to start. You know, if you're just coming across boxing, or you think, oh, I want to learn boxing, and you haven't started yet, and you've been watching these videos, you got to get started, all right? Even if it's 1 day a week, you know, and even if you're trying to work out or get stronger, even if you start by doing 10 press-ups in a day, okay? Consistency is obviously massively important, but you got to just start somewhere, all right? You can build from there, but, you know, ideally, obviously 1 day a week is not enough. 2 is not enough. 3 is the bare minimum, I would say, and that depends on how much time you're fitting in, but just get started, you know? Plan your day. This is something I've spoken about before, I'll continue to talk about, is, you know, have a planning the night before, so you wake up and you have a plan of action that day, and include working out. 30 minutes is fine, you know? It depends how you sort of equip yourself, really, or how you approach the training, but getting started is the most important thing, you know? I would shoot for 3 days a week at the bare minimum. If you're just trying to get into fitness and just trying to learn the sport, just, you know, without actually competing, that's fine. If you're competing, like I said, you need to be doing at least 5 or 6, but I'll get onto that at a later date for those that are interested in more information about that, because, you know, I went through that and I threw myself into boxing 6 days a week, 2 hours a day at least. So, you know, I've got definitely experience with that, and I just want to bring it to you guys to let you know how important training is. But if you're just trying to improve yourself, you're just trying to get better, maybe stronger, fitter, learn the sport, get better technique, you know, obviously the more hours you put in, the better you're going to be typically. So just getting started is very important, and, you know, putting a plan of action in play, starting with at least 3 days a week. It doesn't have to be that much time, but, you know, the consistency of sticking to that is so important as well. Consistency, efficiency, and continuity. I know they kind of all mean the same thing, but, you know, once you start to get that, you'll start getting the addiction to it, right? And you'll start improving, and you'll start feeling like, oh, I can't miss a day, and you shouldn't miss a day. And that's how motivation slowly starts getting turned into discipline, is when your body and your mind start to need it, right? And you build it up. And like, I can't go without training, I can't go without boxing, I can't go without fitness, I can't go without running, because it just I need it. It's a part of my life, it's a lifestyle. So, you know, you've got to cut out the negative things in your life that might be slowing you down, whether it's, you know, poor habit, poor sleep, you know, playing too many games or whatever it is, or, you know, maybe drinking too much, whatever it is, smoking. You know, those things will negatively affect you mentally. So, you know, you've got to try and overcome those things. And by overcoming those things, you start by training, getting out there, and all the things: nature, good sleep, sunshine, exercise, good eating. You know, these things are free, basically, you know what I mean? They're going to help you massively. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the heavy bag. I'm going to move on to the next section. I'm going to do a bit more shadow boxing here, and then talk about how you guys should approach the heavy bag if you are able to get to a gym, and what you should be doing on the heavy bag. All right, guys, so hitting the heavy bag. This is another question that gentleman asked me, you know, for how long for, you know, what type of tempo, stuff like that. It really depends on your level. It depends what, you know, kind of beginner you're calling yourself, how serious you are about what you want to do as well. But if you just want to learn the sport and learn, you know, how to improve your technique, obviously if you are around a gym and you can get into the gym 3 days a week minimum would be great. And, you know, once you've done your shadow boxing, and even jumping rope is something I didn't talk about. That's why I'm going to do several parts to this, because I'm going to forget stuff, and I'm going to definitely need to go back and say you should definitely do this. Starting off with jump rope and ending with jump rope is what I used to do as well. But just getting some jump rope in your routine is a great idea. It's great for cardio, it's great for rhythm, it's great for your footwork and stuff like that. I'm actually making a video pretty soon about that. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, I'm going to bring some clips up whilst I'm talking about the heavy bag, right? So one thing you should definitely try to focus on is your feet, keeping your hands up and just pumping that jab. All right? These are the fundamentals of the sport. Okay, I've talked about that all the time, you know, a good 1-2. You can throw that in there at the end as well, but you keep your hands up and you have good feet and you move your feet and you have a good jab, boom, like that. I mean, you'd be really hard to beat if you know what you're doing and you use those efficiently. Those are the keys to the sport. I mean, you'd be really hard to beat if you know what you're doing and you use those efficiently. Those are the keys to the sport. The keys to the sport. You know, fundamentals. And that's something, the basics that you should be working on from day one. You know, there's no reason that you can't work on the jab, move around the bag, pop the jab. Don't stay in one place on the bag unless you're really trying to work on that one specific punch. You know, I say all the time, moving your feet is a necessity, but if you're trying to work on practicing something for the first time, you're really trying to get to grips with like an uppercut, for example, you need to keep your feet still, because the more you move your feet, it's going to be harder and you might get more frustrated. Yeah, you're going to eventually need to move them, but stay in one place if you're just working that jab. Or once you've got the jab down, move around the bag, start popping the jab. bah, bah. Bring your hands right back to your chin. Focus on being relaxed, keeping good balance, keeping your shape, and, you know, keep working that jab. And then when you need to, throw a 1-2 in there. And that's all you need to be doing when you first start. If you can build up throwing a 3 or 1, 2, 3, keep it at that simple. You know, I really can't stress that enough, that I'm not saying don't ever throw uppercuts, but, you know, it's a good idea to really start out and really try to get the good punches good, straight, keep them straight. And if you want to throw a hook in there and you know how to throw a hook in there, great, but they can become more complicated, you know. So that's a great place to start. How many rounds? Well, I would definitely do it until you're tired. You know, the idea is to get fitter. And, you know, also you start to challenge yourself mentally, right? When you start to get a bit tired, you've got to finish the round, and that's, you know, going to be a part of how you build your character and how you build your mentality, is breaking through the quote unquote pain barrier of mentally being tired or even bored or frustrated or whatever it is. Stick to the rounds that you're going to do and do them. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, I'll develop this, you know, series, and I'd love to hear from you guys and what other stuff you want to know about as I go on, because I'm just out here getting a workout in, expressing myself, talking to you guys, and giving you as much advice as I can. So it works, and it's a great thing, I think, you know, to be talking about training, because it is a deep subject. Anyway, speaking of training, I've got about a third left to do on my little routine, so I'm going to do a bit more shadow boxing, a few more squats. We'll get onto that in the last little section as I finish out, and you know, give you some more little pointers about what you can do next. Yeah, so where to start? Basically, just get started. All right, try to shoot for a minimum of 3 days a week. You know, it depends on your schedule, depends on your time, depends on your commitment and how serious you are about getting better. So, you know, but at the very least 3 days a week. If you're just doing it for a casual, I want to get, you know, an idea of boxing and learn the sport, that's fine. But if you're competing or you're thinking about competing, at least 5 strong full days plus road work, ideally 6, you know, but we can get onto that at a later date. But yeah, if you're able to get to the gym, hit the heavy bag, work on the basics, you know, take your time, work on technique, you know, don't have to go crazy. I think it's better that you can do 5 or 6 good solid rounds at 60-70% getting good quality technique than 2 or 3 hard rounds with flawed technique, you know. So it really is up to you. You know, it comes down to how you can set yourself up to. You know, I always talk about planning. I'll continue to talk about planning your day. Make it a priority, make you a priority. This is another part of the channel, is getting people to love themselves a bit more, you know, and being disciplined is a form of self-love, self-discipline. All these things really are putting yourself first, and working out several times a week, you're showing yourself a massive amount of respect and love. And that's, you know, something that I do because, it sounds weird, I don't love myself like that, but I love myself in the fact that I try to take care of myself because it makes me happy and it provides me with, you know, all the necessities that I can go about my day in a strong peace of mind, you know. So I encourage you to do the same, and obviously eating well, getting good night's sleep, exercise, you know, staying away from all the BS and turn the TV off as well. That's a big help. You know, there's so much nonsense that's there to distract you. So keep away from the distractions. But anyway, that is it from me. Thank you very much as always for tuning in. As I said, I'll be doing several parts to this. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. Smash the like button, have a beautiful weekend, and get working. See you later.
boxing.
On the edge.